then this one. Okay, so hello and welcome to this live blab. We're also live on Facebook. Facebook, I'm not going to be looking at you because I'm looking on blab. You can join us on blab if you want to. We're going to be tapping again with Sophie. We tapped with her last week and we were working on an issue with a sleep problem, a recurrent sleep problem of waking up suddenly in the night about 11 years. And although we haven't resolved the problem, we did uncover some really interesting information about it, which hopefully we can start exploring and releasing today. And there were two things that we looked at. So I don't know which one we're going to look at today, but we'll just see which one seems to be the most important one today. Just checking this is, yeah, that's on. The first one was the birth of your son. And the second one was when your friend told you that her baby had died. That's right, is it?
Yeah.
So as I recall those for you, which of those seems more intense right now?
I think the birth of my son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to give that memory, that specific point where where there was the difficulty, if you had to give a title to that specific moment, what would be the title of that?
I think it would be yeah, because the chord was it was actually it wasn't at the time, it was watching the tape of the cord, the midwife sort of hurriedly taking the cord off his chest that had been wrapped round. So it would be something like let me think. Cord shock, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
yeah,
if you,
I think it was that I thought it was all, I thought the birth was really straightforward and great, and then having seen, you know, and I kind of didn't realise. Yeah, so that was the shock, I think.
wow. Yeah. So if you were to guess the intensity of that cord shock now, I don't want you to go into it right now, but if you were to guess the intensity, what number would you give that?
I think sort of 8.5, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you okay to stop tapping? Okay, so for those of you at home who might be watching this and want to tap along and borrow benefits, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing EFT. It stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It also is called tapping. If you do choose to, if you're watching this because you too have a negative experience that you want to release, then please do take responsibility for your own well-being. And if there's anything that I say or do that you don't like, simply stop doing it. So with that said, let's get going. So even though I have this cord shock memory, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this cord shock memory, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this cord shock memory, I deeply and completely accept myself. Cord shock memory. 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 Cord shock memory.
Cord shock memory.
Cord shock memory.
Cord shock memory.
That memory.
That memory.
Cord shock.
Cord shock.
That memory.
That memory.
And put your hands in the center of your chest. Say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform.
So
yeah.
So if you were to guess the intensity now of that cord shock memory, what number would you give that?
I think a 6.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll do another round on that.
Okay.
So even though
I
have some of the intensity left
I have some of the intensity left
of this cord shock memory,
of this cord shock memory,
I deeply and completely accept myself,
accept myself,
even though the intensity left of the cord shock memory, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Oh, something interesting's happened.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, the title is different.
Okay.
Yeah, the cord shock is like, so it's like, he could have died.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And on a scale of 0 to 10, the intensity of that?
6.
Okay, thank you. Even though
I
have this he could have died memory,
I have this he could have died memory,
I deeply and completely accept myself. So tapping through the points, starting with the top of the head. He could have died.
He could have died.
He could have died.
He could have died.
Cord shock.
Cord shock.
He could have died.
He could have died.
That memory.
That memory.
He could have died.
He could have died.
Cord shock.
Cord shock.
He could have died memory.
He could have died memory.
Cord shock.
Cord shock.
He could have died memory.
He could have died memory.
Remaining intensity.
Remaining intensity.
Of that memory.
Of that memory.
He could have died.
He could have died.
Remaining intensity.
Remaining intensity.
He could have died.
He could have died.
He could have died.
He could have died.
And say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform. Yeah, it's a 2 now.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yes. We're just joined by someone. I want to make sure that she can hear okay. Karen, I see. Can you hear us okay? Just type in yes if you can. I hope you can hear Sophie as well. Okay, I don't know. So we'll just keep going. Okay, so that's down to a 2. How would it be to tell starting from, so this would be your memory of watching the tape
Yes.
of just before you got to the point where the upsetting bit started.
Yeah.
So how would it be to share that right now before you do?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No intensity on sharing that.
No, none at all.
Okay. Great. Okay. Good. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle's here as well, and she can hear us. So, thank you. Okay. So, so just be tapping on your finger points. So while you're telling me this. So start from just before it started.
Okay, so I'm sitting in a chair in my bedroom, and I found this this tape, and William's about, I think, probably only about a week old, and I decided.
So how you just pause for a moment.
I'm feeling kind of excited, I guess, and happy because I'm going to watch this tape. And it's quite an amazing thing to have your, son's birth on recorded. So yeah, there's just sort of excitement and like happiness, and then I start to watch on the little screen on the camera.
And how are you doing as you say you start to watch? Any intensity at all?
No, still kind of like, wow, amazing. And I can see the view of my back. You know, I'm in a pool. It was a water birth, and then out he pops, and that's amazing. And then the midwife scoops him up.
How are you doing as you say the midwife scoops him up?
Yeah, and actually what's happening is I'm noticing, because she told me I'm noticing that he's quite blue.
So how are you doing as you're saying that? I'm noticing that she scooped him up and he's quite blue.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of a bit like a bit sad.
And where do you feel that in your body?
Kind of in my throat a bit and behind my eyes, you know, sort of like, and heavy in my solar plexus. Yeah.
Okay, and there's sadness on a scale of 0 to 10 right now?
6.
Okay, so we're going to be doing some tapping, starting with the side of your hand now. So even though I have this sadness,
I have this sad feeling
in my throat,
behind my eyes,
and heaviness
in
my solar plexus,
I
deeply and completely accept myself, even though I have this sad feeling in my throat and behind my eyes, deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
accept myself,
even
though
though
I have this sadness
I have this sadness
in my throat
and
behind my eyes. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So tapping through the points, starting with the top of the head. Sad in my throat and behind my eyes. Heavy in my solar plexus. He's quite blue. Sad. My throat. And my solar plexus.
my solar plexus,
and behind my eyes.
behind my eyes.
He's quite blue.
He's quite blue.
Heavy.
Heavy.
In my solar plexus.
In my solar plexus.
Sad.
Sad.
In my throat.
In my throat.
And behind my eyes.
Behind my eyes.
Sad.
Sad.
And put your hands in the center of your chest. Say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform. Yeah, just a tiny bit left, but otherwise it's fine.
Okay.
Probably a 4, I'd say.
4. Thank you. I'm just going to pause you for a moment because I'm getting some comments from Michaela and Michelle, who are saying that the video keeps jumping. I am actually recording it, so it will be available for you to watch again. I'm sorry that it keeps jumping. Hopefully, if you want to go onto Blab, you can watch it without that. So apologies there. So what's the strongest? So the sadness now is at a 4, and is it still in your throat and behind your eyes?
Yeah, it's eased up a lot in my throat. It's a bit behind my eyes, and there's a little bit in my solar plexus.
Okay.
And a sort of a heaviness in my head, like kind of fuzziness in my head.
Okay. Okay. So even though I have some of this sadness left, it feels heavy and fuzzy.
It feels heavy and fuzzy
in my head. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have some sadness left, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have some sadness left, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So tapping through the points now, starting with the top of your head. Remaining sadness. Behind my eyes. Remaining heaviness. In my solar plexus. Heavy and fuzzy. In my head. He's quite blue. Remaining sadness. About that moment. Of watching the video. Remaining sadness. Heavy and fuzzy. In my head. Remaining feelings. He's quite blue. Remaining feelings. He's quite blue. And then put your hands in the center of your chest, say transform, and take a deep breath.
It's just a little bit left in my throat.
Okay.
About 3 or 4.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, quite sort of peaceful.
Any thoughts come to mind when we did that round?
I was kind of trying not to leap onto the next bit.
Yeah, I understand. Okay,
yeah.
let's do one more round on this, and then we'll go on. So even though, so we're going to stop. There's a little bit left in my throat.
There's a little bit left in my throat.
And I'm trying not to leap onto the next bit.
And I'm trying not to leap onto the next bit.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Love and accept myself.
Even though
there's
a little bit of sadness left.
There's a little bit of sadness left.
I'm open to the possibility.
I'm open to the possibility
of releasing it. And letting it go. Even though there's a little bit of sadness left.
And that's interesting. Yeah, I'm quite attached to it. The sadness.
And I'm quite attached to it. Because if I let it go.
Because if I let it go,
it means. You tell me.
If I let it go. Oh gosh. Yeah, it means like that there's a part of me that is like quite addicted to suffering. And if I let it go, then it's actually kind of quite dangerous to be happy, because I don't know what that's like really. And although I think I want to be happy, it's safer not to be. You know, because I've made up all sorts of things like it won't last and something terrible might happen. You can't have happiness. You don't deserve it, or something like that. Yeah. So it's just, this is actually like a story that I've made up so that I can just kind of have another bit of proof about my unhappy life.
So even though
there's part of me
that's addicted to suffering. I don't know what it's like to be happy. It's safer not to be. It won't last. Something terrible might happen. And maybe I don't deserve it anyway. Those are the beliefs that I've created. Maybe long before this.
Definitely long before this.
And I deeply and completely love and accept all parts of myself. Especially those young tender ones. That created these beliefs. So tapping through the points now, starting with the top of your head. Remaining sadness. In my throat. It's easier to keep it. So that I won't be happy. It's easier not to be. Because something terrible might happen.
Oh, and I'm used to it.
So if I keep this sadness.
So if I keep this sadness,
it's like an insurance,
it's like an insurance,
so that nothing terrible will happen.
so that nothing terrible will happen.
Because terrible things happen
Because terrible things happen
when I start to get happy.
when I start to get happy.
Is that true?
Yeah,
That's my story.
that's my story.
It's what I know.
It's what I know.
So I choose to keep this sadness,
So I choose to keep this sadness,
to keep me safe,
to keep me safe.
and say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform. Yeah, about a 6.
The 6 being the addiction to suffering or the sadness?
Yeah, both. Yeah. Yeah, I can see, that I'm clinging on to this.
Yeah.
Belief.
Yeah. So is that higher or lower than what it was before?
It's probably about the same, I think.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to try something because I'm wondering whether we need to go earlier or whether we can just stay at this level and do a little bit more release. We'll try and stay at this level and do a little bit of releasing to get to the point where we can move forward. Otherwise, we might have to go back.
Yeah, what happened was actually I was beginning to think about those things where I had made that up, but I don't know whether this needs to be released first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back there.
Yeah. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, let's just have a kind of title which summarizes, it doesn't have to describe those events, but just a general kind of summary or a word or a title that we could refer to those things.
Yeah. Yeah, something about these shock moments that I've had, which is like, sort of solar plexus shocks. And it's something like, yeah, something, my shocking events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, that's quite interesting because the reason that we started this session last week was because you were being shocked out of your sleep. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and that, okay. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's see what happens next.
Yeah.
So, even though I have these shocking event memories,
in my life,
and I get shocked out of my sleep every night. And from those shocking events, I've created some beliefs that have made me addicted to suffering. That it's easier to keep some suffering. Than allow myself to be happy. Because something terrible might happen. So I'm keeping these patterns and beliefs. And maybe they're being reenacted every night. When I get shocked out of my sleep. And I'm going to keep that little bit of sadness left. Connected with watching the videotape.
connected with watching the videotape.
And seeing and hearing the midwife say.
And hearing the midwife say.
It's quite blue.
It's quite blue.
And I deeply and completely.
And I deeply and completely.
Love, accept and forgive myself.
Love, accept and forgive myself.
Tapping through the points. Remaining sadness.
Remaining sadness.
My shocking events.
My shocking event.
He's quite blue.
He's quite blue.
Being shocked out of my sleep.
Being shocked out of my sleep.
Keeping the sadness.
Keeping the sadness.
As an insurance.
As an insurance.
To stopping something terrible happen.
To stopping something terrible happen.
Just as it did in my shocking events.
Just as it did in my shocking events.
So I need to keep that sadness.
So I need to keep that sadness.
And I'm open to the possibility.
And I'm open to the possibility.
Of having compassion for myself.
Having compassion for myself.
And that young part of me.
And that young part of me.
That's too terrified.
That's too terrified.
To let it go.
To let it go.
And I'm open to the possibility.
And I'm open to the possibility.
Of sending that little me.
Of sending that little me.
Love.
Love.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Understanding.
Understanding.
And healing.
And healing.
From all those shocking events.
From all those shocking events.
When she created these beliefs.
When she created these beliefs.
About needing to keep a little bit of sadness.
Without needing to keep a little bit of sadness.
And that part of me.
And that part of me.
Is now holding me back.
Is now holding me back.
And stopping me sleep.
And stopping me sleep.
That was then.
That was then.
And this is now.
And this is now.
I created those beliefs.
I created those beliefs.
And behaviours.
And behaviours.
Strategies.
Strategies.
In order to protect myself.
In order to protect myself.
And they worked very well for a time.
And they worked very well for a time.
But they're holding me back now.
But they're holding me back now.
So I'm open to the possibility.
So I'm open to the possibility.
Of finding a safe way.
Of finding a safe way.
To start releasing them.
To start releasing them.
And letting them go.
And letting them go.
And say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform. Yeah, I feel much lighter.
Good. So when you think about that moment when the midwife said he's quite blue, what's there for you now?
So what?
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's a change.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, I completely trust her.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good. So what I'd like you to do now is to tap on your finger points and start telling me the story again from the moment that just before it happened, as you did before. And I may stop you again, but I just want you to to just pause when you notice any intensity, and I might stop you and ask you as well.
Okay. Okay, so I'm in the birthing pool. Well, I'm watching myself in the birthing pool. I'm sitting on this chair in my living room looking at the little screen, and I'm excited about watching. And then I see William being born, see my back, and he whooshes into the water, and the midwife scoops him up and she holds him, and I notice, I can't remember when she said, but I noticed that he was a bit blue.
So how are you doing when you say he was a bit blue?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keep going.
And then I can actually see on the tape that she makes a very quick movement.
And how are you doing as you tell me that?
Yeah, I'm all right, actually.
Are you completely calm, peaceful, and light?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. And yeah, let's see. And she kind of just takes him to one side. I think that actually, yeah, there's a bit of intensity.
Okay, she takes him to one
about
side.
me watching him, because I can sort of feel that there is a little bit of concern in her.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's like her concern is, there's a bit of intensity there, about 4.
Okay. I'm just going to pause for a moment. So Sherry has asked, she says she's suffered trauma from giving birth to her twins. I'm so sorry to hear that. And we're actually just going to do a one-to-one with Sophie today. So thanks for asking if you can call in. But I do weekly blabs. So if you want to email me afterwards, we can maybe have a conversation about how that would be possible. So thanks for asking that. So back to you, Sophie. On a scale of 0 to 10, when she takes him to one side, oh, you 4. Okay, and where do you feel that in your?
It's a sort of slight constriction in my throat, and a sort of dullness in my heaviness in my limbs, and again a bit in the solar plexus.
Okay, thank you. So even though I have this intensity, as when she takes him to one side, I deeply and completely accept myself, even though I have this intensity in that moment when I see her taking him to one side. I deeply and completely accept myself. And what's the emotion of when she takes him to one side?
Yeah, when I'm watching that, it's like, oh, there's something wrong.
And the emotion?
And the emotion is fear.
Okay. Even though
I
have this fear, I deeply and completely accept myself. So tapping through the points: fear, constriction in my throat, dullness, heaviness in my limbs, and solar plexus,
and solar plexus.
She takes him to one side.
She takes him to one side.
Fear.
Fear.
Constriction in my throat.
Constriction in my throat.
Dullness.
Dullness.
Heaviness.
Heaviness.
In my solar plexus.
In my solar plexus.
And my limbs.
And my limbs.
Fear.
Fear.
She takes him to one side.
She takes him to one side.
Constriction in my throat.
Constriction in my throat.
So say transform and take a deep breath.
Transform. Yeah, like 2 or less.
Great. So on that remaining 2, let's do the floor to ceiling eye roll, which means tap on the point, which is called the gamut point, in between the bone extending from your little finger and your ring finger, and just tapping on that point and looking straight ahead, and then putting your eyes down to the floor. And while you take a deep breath in, rolling your eyes up to the ceiling. And relax. And what number is the intensity now?
1.
Okay, let's do that one more time. So again, tapping on the gamut point, and do the floor to ceiling eye roll in your own time.
There's still a little bit of something left in my throat.
Okay, and can you get rid of that, or is that hanging on?
I think I'm hanging on to it. Yeah.
Okay. Always good to work with those little last few bits. And if there was a reason why you couldn't let that go, what would it be?
Because I'm just not allowing myself to, because there's kind of fear of what would it be like if I did, because I don't know what that would be like.
Okay. Even though fear, letting go of the fear.
Say that again.
Fear of letting go of the fear.
Fear of letting go of the fear.
And the constriction in my throat.
And the constriction in my throat.
Because what would that be like?
Because what would that be like?
If I let it go.
If I let it go.
What would it be like?
What would it be like?
I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah. I think it'll be like I'd have to be really responsible for for my own happiness, rather than thinking, really like, the freedom to be happy. And it's kind of always easier to blame the past or something going on or circumstances or whatever.
Even though I'd have to be really responsible.
I'd have to be really responsible
for my own happiness.
For my own happiness.
If I let this fear go.
If I let this fear go.
It's so much easier.
So much easier.
To stay in my comfort zone.
Stay in my comfort zone.
With my fear.
With my fear.
It's familiar.
It's familiar.
I don't want to let it go.
I don't want to let it go.
And I deeply and completely
and I deeply and completely
love and accept
love and accept
all parts of myself.
all parts of myself.
Even though
oh yeah,
I'd have to, go on.
because I think, I've got to be perfect. Yeah.
Simply perfect.
So loving and accepting all parts of myself, including those bits that are not perfect.
So even though I can't accept the imperfect parts, is that what's coming up?
I don't even want to admit that there are parts of myself that are like, so the shadow parts, if you like. Yeah. Yeah, I'm quite frightened of those parts.
Okay. Okay. Even though I don't even want to admit
that
they exist, and I'm frightened of them, I soothe and comfort myself. Even though I don't even want to admit they exist.
I don't even really want to admit they exist.
I'm frightened of them.
I'm frightened of them.
And I'm here anyway. So tapping through the points. I've got to be perfect. And I don't want to admit to those other parts of me. I'm frightened of them. And I'd have to be really responsible. For my own happiness. So I'm not allowing myself to let go of that remaining fear and constriction in my throat. It's so much easier to stay as I am. And I'm open to the possibility of finding a way of accepting the imperfect parts of myself. Does that feel possible? Have you got a drink or anything nearby?
That's fine.
Here's one for you.
Oh, thank you.
So what's there for you now?
Yeah, it's good. I feel like peaceful. Just such a relief, just feel nicely tired and kind of that this kind of driving and striving to be perfect, like even to the point of having the perfect birth and the perfect baby, perfect children and perfect life, that actually that doesn't exist. That's just not possible. And it's like a carrot that I dangle, but actually, it's fine, just the way everything is. Everything is just the way it is, and just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's such a common theme for mums, want striving for perfection. I just see it over and over. So yeah, and definitely can relate as well. So
yeah.
Sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, and I was thinking about like the possibility of from that, of like just letting go of all that and just being, funnily enough, I think it's something like being floored. Being just really happy to be whoever I am and whoever I'm not. Yeah.
When you say being flawed, it reminds me of this really really amazing. Are you doing okay for time? Are you?
Yeah. What's the time now?
It's 1:30.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Because it just reminds me of this really this story that really speaks to me around that whole perfection and being flawed. And tell me if you already know it. But it's about the cracked pot. And there was this water carrier, and every day he had to walk from his village a mile to the well and fill up his pots with water. And he had a kind of one of those water carrying things with a kind of
a yoke thing.
Yeah, and two pots at each end, and one pot was cracked, and one pot was perfect. And every day he'd go and he'd fill up his pots, and on the way back, the water would drip out of the cracked pot, and he'd come back, and you know, it would only be half full. And the cracked pot felt really bad because he felt like he wasn't doing his job properly, and that, you know, he had to be the perfect pot, and you know, he was letting his master down. And the master said to him, but every day as we walk and you drop your water, beautiful wildflowers are growing on your side of the path, whereas the path of the perfect pot is just bland, and nothing grows there. So it's kind of like out of our cracks and out of our imperfections grow flowers. And I don't know, that really speaks to me, because I kind of struggle around that whole area as well. I don't know whether you've heard that story or.
I have, but not for a while. So it's really lovely to hear it again. Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah.
A good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we left with now? Let's retrack. Okay, she took him to one side.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? She took him to one side.
Yeah, I feel fine about that. Yeah. Just check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no big deal.
Okay. So if you now be tapping on your finger points and tell the story from the beginning again.
So I'm sitting in my chair in my bedroom, and I'm just about to watch the video of William's birth, and I'm really excited and I'm happy and full of the sort of wonder that I can watch that. And then I see myself in the water pool. I see my back, and I see the moment where he shoots out up through the water, and the midwife reaches down and she scoops him up, and he's looking a bit blue, and she whips the cord off from around his chest.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay, calm, peaceful and light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she takes him to one side and sort of has a good look at him. Yeah, and then she hands him to me. And I just look at him and I just think, oh, he's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
And how are you doing now?
Great. Yeah. It's fine.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, brilliant.
So What beliefs did you create as a result of that experience?
Oh, I think I'd created them a lot before, and I think this was just sort of more evidence, actually.
Reinforcement, yeah. Okay.
So it was something like around life's uncertain, and you can't trust that everything's going to go as planned. And I'm thinking of those earlier shock moments, which is very much related, which is yeah, sort of you're going along and going along, and something just can come out of left field and completely turn your world upside down. And then I guess yeah, something like, you know, like don't get too happy because it doesn't last. And you can't fully trust life. Yeah.
Great. And how do you think those beliefs that were reinforced in that moment then affected your mothering with him?
Oh, I think I've sort of had times where I've kind of not wanted to kind of, I've held back my love possibly a bit, because I'm worried that, you know, what might happen. It would just be too painful if anything bad happened. And yeah, I mean, I can see with him, he is, you know, when he was younger, he was very, very attached to me and very clingy, and always looking for proof that he was loved, and kind of loved more than his older brother. And I mean, I remember he used to sit at the bottom of the stairs, even if I just went to the loo, going, you know, arms outstretched, you know, going crying and saying, "It's your mama." It's led to quite, I think, his insecurity, and also conversely, this sort of maybe slightly suffocating him with, you know, sort of, I mean, this I think for me as well, this sort of fear of separation from him, and in case something happens, like I would him and his brother, I would not want, like when my husband used to, I mean, I was absolutely exhausted, of course, like you are in those early days of motherhood, and my husband would offer to take them away and, you know, just look after them. And I remember like watching the car driving down the road and feeling as though I still had the umbilical cord, and it was just painful to separate. So yeah, that's separation anxiety.
Yeah. So we haven't got time to address that today, but what would be really good to do, and I know that you haven't learned this on your course, but it's a form of EFT called matrix re-imprinting, and it would be really good to go back to that moment when you watched the videotape and kind of like reinforce some new feelings in that new mum you, into feeling that it's safe to love and those kind of feelings, and then also for your son to then kind of like have a holding around him that he knows that he is deeply loved, so that they almost like to re-imprint that memory for both of you. So that would be something that would be a nice thing to do. I know that we haven't really addressed these beliefs, but I'm just curious. Life is uncertain on a scale of 0 to 10.
7.
Okay. And does that seem about the same as it was before? I know we haven't tested these beliefs beforehand, but does it feel like it's shifted at all, or does it feel totally related to the earlier memories?
I think it's related to earlier memories, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how are you doing? Does this feel kind of like an okay place to round off, or
yeah? It's brilliant, because I've seen these things before, but this is a really great kind of bringing them up and then kind of being able to release them, because it's always like it's kind of okay to have an insight, isn't it? But then what do you do with that? And being able to let go, to really find a way of letting go, is really great. So yeah, I mean, I feel very relaxed, and that this is you've left me in a good place.
Great. So, and I mean, we haven't worked at all on the sleep problem, but it'd be really interesting to see if there is any change, because there still is the other memory that we haven't looked at, and there's unfinished business that could be done if it's not like there isn't anywhere else to go with the sleep. So but it'd be really nice if there was any change, to let me know. And yeah, I'm going to. Oh, I haven't got my cards ready, but let me just go and get one for you.
Oh, thank you.
Did you get my card, by the way?
I think I sent.
Oh, good.
It was lovely. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's by my bed.
Oh, okay. I'm right back now. So from my crazy sexy love notes, let's see what comes up today.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And it says, listen to your body.
Oh, yeah.
And on the back it says, no matter how bad we feel, our bodies are always working on our behalf to create health and vitality. Meet your body halfway by acting on the messages it sends you, whether it's a whisper or a roar. Don't ignore what you hear. Listen to your body. It wants the best for you.
That's perfect. Yeah, because you can hear I've sort of got a cold and not feeling well, so that's great.
Oh,
perfect.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on here, even though you weren't feeling well. That's really lovely.
Thank you, Tamara.
Okay, you're very welcome.
I kind of knew it would help as well.
Yeah, good. And sleep well tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll let you know. Keep you
posted. Okay, take care.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot, Tamara. Brilliant.
Take care. Bye. Bye.